Welcome to the podcast of CreateConnectConvert.co, a community of empowered businesswomen by empowered businesswomen. Let's dig in. So hi, and welcome back to CreateConnectConvert.co, a community of empowered women for empowered women. So we are really excited to be back here today. And I'm Laura Templeton, your host for this episode of CreateConnectConvert.co. And I am going to invite my co-host to introduce themselves very quickly. I'm going to ask Regina to go first, and then Regina, you can throw it to the next person.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. My name is Regina Garay. The name of my company is Right Brain Loves Left. I am a digital marketing educator and manager, which means that I either manage your digital marketing for you or I teach you how to do it yourself in a manageable way. I am going to throw it to you, Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Choate, and I help entrepreneurs to get more out of their website and their tech. So I help with funnels and website traffic and all the fun stuff like that. All right, Christy, you're up.
Hello, I'm Christy Crippen. I'm a virtual administrator and I'm the founder of Collaborative Partners Administrative Services. And I started my company because I saw a real need in the market to help overwhelmed entrepreneurs and small business owners to help them with needs like productivity, scheduling, time management, organization, habits, accountability, all of these things that when they are in harmony with one another, that allows you to work in your zone of genius. Back to you, Laura.
Beautiful. I love it. I love being here with all of you. I'm Laura Templeton with 30 Second Success, and I help heart-driven, tongue twisting. It's those tongue twisting conversations that we have and we struggle with. I talk about brand communications all the time, and yet sometimes even I mess up my 30-second message, right? So that's one of the most powerful things that we do at 30 Second Success is help you find the words that communicate your brilliance with your audience so you start attracting the clients you were meant to serve. So that's what we do at 30 Second Success. And I am so thrilled to be here with this group of amazing business owners who absolutely love to support our community. And that's why we came together with CreateConnectConvert.co. So if you haven't watched our first episode that really explains the power behind CreateConnectConvert.co and what drove us to start this, go back and watch it. I'm telling you, it is a great episode. So we're going to kick this off today. We're going to start with building your brand authority both online and off. That's the topic for today. And I know that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, especially when we're used to networking in person or we're used to networking online. And then all of a sudden we go to do something in person and we get all tongue tied, right? So, we get tongue tied. We're not sure how to build our brand, just really coming from a place of authority and knowledge and knowing what we do. So that's today's topic. And we're going to jump in, and I'm going to start with my first question is really about what are some of the things that you can do to build your brand, bringing in testimonials, reviews, and case studies that really help to build that trust. So Regina, I'm going to start with you. Tell me some of the things that you've done over time that have really helped you to establish yourself as a brand authority in that marketing space.
Testimonials that you mentioned are one of them. Asking for testimonials, and also when you ask for those testimonials, talk with the person that gave you the testimonial and let them know, I'm going to be using this on social media. I'm going to be using this on my website. I'm going to be using this on a newsletter, different variations so that, they know that you're going to be using that multi-prong effect for it. And then also think about it, because some people think, I'll just get a testimonial and put it up on my website. But you can also ask somebody to put it on your Google business profile. You can put that on a blog post or on marketing materials, on your social posts, stories, even, make a reel out of your different testimonials if you're promoting a particular service. And also in the flip side, if somebody does leave you a review on your Google business profile that you didn't even ask for, you can also ask from them, thank you, first of all, and then take that one and use it on your other touch points. So that to me is one of the most powerful ways to provide that proof that yes, people enjoy working with you. It establishes your expertise. And, it makes people feel a little more trusting about using your services if they just come upon your website for the first time.
Beautiful. I
That's
love
amazing.
that. I love that.
That's what I've got for this.
Right. There's so many ways to, testimonials are so powerful, right? And I think one of the things that we've had conversations in this group around is how important testimonials aren't just to your audience, right? How impactful are those testimonials to you when you're struggling, right? When you're having a really off day. Christy, can you speak to that? Why is that it's so important to have those testimonials for in a situation like that?
Mm. That old adage that we are our own worst critic. Oof, oof, boy, does that hit home. When someone says, hey, you have impacted my life because of, and then fill in the blank, or I value working with you because of X, or I couldn't imagine not working with you because of Y. Take that in. I know for myself how many times in my life would I hear those words and then I would try to dismiss it. It's like I feel like women we're conditioned to, if we receive a compliment, it's like, oh, this old thing, or oh, thanks, and then we just want to gloss over it and keep right on going. But somebody is taking the time to say to you, hey, this is how you've solved my pain point or points. This is how you've impacted my life. And it's about just stopping and really feeling that deep within your spirit. And I love I'll quickly comment with what Regina said too. And it kind of piggybacks into the question you just asked me, Laura. When you are having those moments where you're working with your clients and or your customers, and then so many juicy nuggets come out in those everyday type moments, and we may show up for a meeting and we're thinking, okay, so today we're going to accomplish A, B, and C. And then we're working through that. They pay you a compliment in between A and B, and you're like, oh, thanks. It's so nice. Okay, so where are we with this? And we just keep going. So it's when we have our radar up, and then we can bottle that and then put that into an email, and we can say, Becky, during our planning session today, you said XYZ, and I really hope to encapsulate this. Is there anything you would change? And did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to add? And may I have your permission to use this as a testimonial? Because sometimes when we ask people for testimonials, they're, oh, that would be, yes, I would love to do that. And then they sit at their laptop going, I right. But yet it's so easy for them to say it.
I
So we're
love
helping them.
to
Yeah.
things that people say out loud
Yes.
or that you see in an email buried within different things, and you just kind of go, that's a testimonial.
Exactly. Exactly. And it helps us to sharpen our skills and our listening and our attention and our focus, but we're also helping them do the mental heavy lifting. Becky, all you need to do is, if it's 100% and you're fine with me using this, just hit yes to this email. That would mean the world to me. And now we've saved them time. I cannot take credit for this. This was given to me by my business consultant, this great idea. And so I share the wealth because I think it's something that a lot of people never even think about.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you said about sometimes we discount when someone gives us a compliment. But there are days where you just really you're hitting the wall and you're having a hard time. And the best thing, when I have had people come to me, a lot of my clients are like struggling and they're like, they just can't get over a certain hump and they just, they're feeling defeated. I'm like, go read your testimonials. Go read what people are saying about you online. Go into LinkedIn. And if you're not asking for testimonials, you need to be doing that. I love that suggestion, Regina. And more powerfully, Christy, what you're saying about giving people guidance on what you would, like giving them a little bit of guidance, like, oh my gosh, this is a great testimonial. Would you mind if I use this somewhere? But also kind of framing it well. And that's one of the things, like I've had people say, I would love to give you a review or a testimonial. Can you write something for me to just put my name to? I'm like, sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable with that. How do you feel about that, Carolyn? I know that that's something that you do so beautifully when you're creating funnels and getting book reviews for some of your book work. How do you feel about that when someone asks you to actually write it for them?
I personally hate that. I mean, I understand it's the saving time, but Christy, what you brought up is perfect because it's like, oh, can you leave me a review? You've already written it. You've already
Yeah.
done it. So just post this. So
Yeah.
that seems like a great solution to me. I'm looking at getting endorsements for a new book that I'm working on now. And so that's a place where a lot of times, as you know, Laura, people will say, yeah, I'd love to endorse your book. Just tell me what to say. Or, so I think I've
Mhm.
been leaning towards just giving some basic guidelines, like this is what I'm
Yes.
hoping for, but you got to be
Yeah. Or here's
honest.
an example, right? You want to, or here's an example. Like I like when people give me examples of what they're looking for, but
Yes.
then I can go and say, oh, okay, this is what they're looking for. I can go write something similar.
Yeah, because
Or you can, yeah.
when
Yeah,
people
chat
say to you,
GPT.
go ahead, sorry.
I see
Carolyn just said what I was going to say. Yeah, take
yeah,
it to Chat
I
GPT and
could
say, can
see
you
it
write
going
something like
across your
this?
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, whenever anybody asks me, what should I say or anything, I see it as an opportunity, because that person is open. They think so highly of you that they're like, whatever you want to write is great with me. I mean, that's an opportunity, and then you can kind of look at your testimonials and see, what am I missing from these? Is it that I do
Mm,
this? Is it that I'm good at this? And then you can kind of suggest to the person, I would love to have a testimonial focused on this aspect of my services or this aspect of my expertise. This is kind of the wording I was thinking of. Can you work on, not can you work on it, but can you do something within these lines? Do you feel comfortable with that? So for me, it's an opportunity, and I'm
That's a
super
great
grateful for the
frame.
people that
Yeah,
that do offer.
that's a great way of looking at it. I love that. And filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
I'll say this quickly. I feel like as I was listening to what you were saying just now, Regina, it reminded me of times where people would ask me for testimonial, and I was honored to feel that. But
Mhm.
then immediately my thought is, okay, what is it that you're looking for me to share with your audience? And so I would ask them, okay, I would be happy to do that. What are you looking for? What are you looking for me to say in the testimonial? And if I had a dime for every time somebody, like their eyes would get big and they would lean back and go, oh, I don't know. I was just hoping maybe you could say a few kind words about me. And so then when we dig into it a little bit, I realize that this simple conversation is opening their mind up that in the future, when they ask for testimonial, they can now look at the situation with through a different lens, and they now know what to say to somebody. Like say it was a course that they created. What did you learn from this course, or how did taking my course impact your business? So I find that giving them examples of different things that I think of, like, are you looking for this, or would this resonate? And then it gets their creative juices flowing too.
You know what
No,
else I
I
was
love
thinking
that.
of that is kind of going back to something else that Regina said is using your testimonials in multiple places. And I was just sort of noodling on that and thinking, there's a lot of places that I could use them that I'm not. Like, yeah, I always think I can post it on social media, I'll put it on a nice graphic, but I could put it in my newsletter. I could put it in an
Mhm.
email, and I could put it in my YouTube videos. Like when I
Yes.
do YouTube videos about aspects of a book that I have, I could put reviews that other people have left of the book there to show that social proof. So it's not just me saying, look at this cool book, you're going to love it.
Yeah,
So
and
I
that's
have
the
some
biggest
work to do
thing,
now.
right? Like all of a sudden we have an assignment. It's like, oh no, something else to do. But one of the things that I think is so beautiful, like you were just saying about the acknowledgments that you're looking for, the endorsements for your books, they can be broken down into multiple different quotes, right? And that's one of the things that I learned by working with a team publishing, people that were in the publishing field, is they created a bunch of graphics for me based on the endorsements that I received. And now when I publish a new book, I use the same idea. I use the same concepts and create my own. And so I have a template and I just plop the new quote in there and who said it and why they said it. And I love that. I think it's so beautiful to. I really would love to touch on and get each of your perspective of how important are testimonials, reviews, and case studies to building trust and credibility within your business. What do you see? What kind of responses are you getting when you're sharing those? Do you feel like it is making an impact? So Christy, I see you shaking your head. So yeah, so do you have something to share regarding that?
Without question. I've had so many people say to me, "Oh, I saw so and so's testimonial on your website, and I saw myself in that." And we're taught when it comes to marketing, communications, whatever you want to call that for yourself, to how do we share with the world? These are the pain points that I help relieve and take away for you. And when we have a testimonial, that's yet another way to do that. And they see themselves in that, because I think so often people are so stressed out, they're so overwhelmed, they're so buried under you name it. And then they see somebody else's words, and then it like cuts through the noise in their head. And they go, "Oh my God, that's me. That's me." And I'll say this very quickly on an offshoot. We were talking about graphics, testimonial graphics, and it's yet another way for us to tie in our branding and have us be even more memorable to the world. Like
Yeah, because
It's a
another
visual.
link.
it's as
Yeah.
Laura says, building that brand authority. And
Right.
you're absolutely right. You're putting your branding in there and you're actually putting a testimonial in there for your brand. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful to have that visual connection, right? That's a huge piece of it, is having that visual connection. The brand communication is not just verbal, it is visual as well. We have to remember that that's so important, that the two need to be speaking the same language, right? What people are seeing and what people are reading or hearing need to speak the same language. Regina, I have a real quick question for you. How do you feel about referrals being a great way of receiving that social proof from an offline, right? From an offline perspective, right? How do you view referrals and understanding how you receive them versus how you give them? So can you share a little bit about referrals and the impact that they have from that social proof side of things?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have a lot of referrals coming through. Funnily enough, when we talk about testimonials and we talk about the testimonials, the different way you can share them, there's also a different way that you can use the person behind the testimonial, which is also in case studies. So you can transform, that kind of testimonial into a case study. So in my website, I have different case studies, and people actually refer people to me based on those case studies. Oh, I know somebody who had this issue, and I think that you could help them. So when I first put case studies on my website, I was like, nobody's going to read through this, and yeah, they do.
They're phenomenal.
So, that coming through as a referral, because a testimonial is a snippet, whereas a case study, you're sharing, here's what here's what their pain points were, here's what the diagnosis was, and here's what the plan and the actionable results were. So, you're going through all that. So, the referrals to me are everything, and I take care of them. Probably, we all take care of them more because somebody cared enough to send those to us. And the same with me in terms of referrals, because I, have a specific industry, the design and construction industry. If somebody comes in for me asking for different things, I will refer them to somebody that's in that industry and that they can help them more than I ever could. So I think that just kind of shows, I think that you have this expertise, even if we're in the same field. I think that you have this expertise that I do not, and I think that you could elevate this person more so than I ever could. And so I'm hoping I'm answering your question correctly,
And
Laura.
you're
You
expecting
are.
that person you referred them to is going to treat this person like gold, like you said, because it's your reputation is tied into it as well. If you're sending somebody to an expert who then like is shady to them, then it hurts you. So you really like pick careful referral partners, and you treat people who are referred to you very, very well, because you know it impacts your relationship with that person who did the referring.
Right. And you're still building that level of trust, right? You're still building that relation. That relationship is so important and you got to protect it. That's one of the things that I love talking about. And as a matter of fact, I've gone deeply into it in my book, Ditch to Pitch, 30-second success, ditch to pitch and start connecting, because I think that's, the referral partnership, that there's so many opportunities there. And again, that's one of the easiest ways to have an offline relationship. Like, how many times have you heard us talking about Carolyn Shode and her amazing funnel creations? She gets lots of referrals because she's so dynamic when it comes to creating funnels. But I think that's one of those things. Like, if you're in a networking event and you're one-on-one with people, as opposed to being even virtual or online on social media, that offline opportunity to talk about your network is huge. And I think that's where the referral piece comes in, and those testimonials or those case studies, right? Because we can be storytellers, and somebody says, "Oh, so what do you do?" And you're like, "Well, how people struggle with X. Well, I help them overcome it, and this is how." Right? That's where those case studies can come in, where you can use clients as examples, even when you're in, face-to-face conversations with people. And I think that's really powerful. Carolyn, when you're working in that funnel space and you're creating, do you see a certain style that stands out more than others, whether it's case studies or testimonials? Is there something that seems to get more attention?
I always say this answer to every question. It depends on your audience. It depends who you're trying to reach, what they're going to want the most. I think another aspect of the case studies that I am thinking about as a consumer is I would read through that whole thing, because I would have already decided that I wanted to work with you, but I want some like outside support to validate that choice. So I would be reading and reading and reading just to like build up that good feeling of like, yeah, I'm making the right decision. Yeah. And that's how I was with, that used to be, you'd have those sales letters, which is like a web page that just goes on and on and on and on, and it will have a button every so often saying buy now. And it makes my mouth water. I would read every single word of those pages, no matter how long they were, because it was like getting me all jazzed up for it. So it's like the case study is something where you can see yourself, but it's also something where people can use it to support their desire to say yes to you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
The psychology of that, where you've made a decision, you're there, but you continue reading that website or the marketing materials. So you're validating your own decision, and then you take that third step, which I guess is a one-on-one or a proposal or a consult. And that is the final, like, oh yes, I can work with this person. So it's multiple touch points that help in whatever marketing materials you use.
That's true. The touch points can be spread
authority.
out, but they can also be condensed. Lots of touch points.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is again, understanding who your audience is, right? And how they like to consume content. And I think that's a big conversation Christy and I have had before, was understanding your ideal clients and really understanding how they consume content, because Christy is definitely somebody who understands the disc profile. And so we've had some great conversations around that. Christy, do you have any suggestions for the audience on how to create or, align their digital presence with their in-person presence to help to speak to the different audiences that they want to attract?
I feel that the more that we understand ourselves, the more that we want to understand ourselves, and also by extension, the more that we want to understand our audience. We need to know what is keeping them up at night. What's having them lay in bed staring at the ceiling? Not even the sheep are helping, counting sheep. That's not even helping. And they're stressed out. And so really sitting down, like I just love putting pen to paper and just thinking about, okay, what are the things that are keeping them up at night or that are holding them back from achieving even more success in their business? What are the things that they're feeling shame about? What are the things that are causing them real pain? And how do I talk about that in a very supportive and comforting way that has them when they read that they think, oh, she understands me. She gets me. And I think with what Regina was saying with the testimonials, even just admitting, hey, I need help in my business. That's hard because we're conditioned to think that, oh, because I am the business owner, the buck stops with me. I've got to do everything in my business. But the reality is that there are certain things that are not in your wheelhouse. And also, there's also the time element. You only have so many hours in the day. And oh, by the way, you have a life outside of who you are as a business owner. And we want you to live that life and enjoy that life. And so we think we have to do all of the things. And so I think that there could be some shame tied up in that where we go, oh, am I going to be judged because I'm not doing this myself? Should I be doing this myself? Or I don't know how to do it. And so I think that having those testimonials, it goes back to somebody else. Oh, they sat down and they made the commitment. They made the decision. I'm going to work with her or him or whatever the case may be. And these are the results I got. So now they visualize themselves walking down the same path. Laura, I really hope I answered your question. It was such a beautiful question. And all of these things came up within me. I think, I guess the bottom line is, I think that the more that you really understand your audience, is your audience more black and white, the logical, the high C on the disc profile? Are they the decision makers, which would be, your D's, and just the facts, whereas the C, they love to swim in the facts. And that's just two out of the four. And so really understand how your audience thinks, how they behave, what kinds of things do they say? All of that comes into play.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. We have the opportunity to really identify and understand who our ideal client is. And that's another whole conversation we can dive into at some point in time
Right.
about what's your niche, right? Who do you love to work with as opposed to being all over the place? This is something that Regina does beautifully, understanding deeply who her ideal client is, and everything that she creates is really focused on that ideal client and being very specific of who they are and how they operate. So she has a deep understanding of her ideal client. So, listeners, when you get a chance, go check out Right Brain Loves Left. If you really want a good example of someone who is being very specific and targeting who their ideal client is, it's a beautiful example. I think all of our websites are as well, but Regina does it so, she's got that creative graphic design element going on. I just love it. She speaks to my soul when I'm looking at her website. So I would definitely encourage you to look at it. We are almost out of time. I love hanging out with you ladies. I can't wait to get on the next conversation and just dive in deeper. There are so many things to unpack when it comes to building your brand authority. But more, we've talked about testimonials, we've talked about case studies, we've talked about how to use them and understand that you need to be speaking to your ideal client to have a better understanding of what they need to hear from you, both in person and online, right? So if you are networking, if you are out and about and you are meeting people, build those referral relationships, get those connections going, make sure that your brand is carrying through with where you're showing up and how you're showing up. And whether it's online or off, it doesn't matter. Your brand is really the standout. It's your business card, right? You don't have to have a physical business card to actually have a business card, right? It is your brand is your business card. It speaks about who you are, how you show up, and it builds trust within your network. So until next time, I'm Laura Templeton. I'm glad that you are here hanging out with us on createconnectconvert.com. Remember to continue creating, continue converting, and never, I'm sorry, continue creating, continue connecting, and never stop converting your dreams into reality. And that's a wrap for today's episode of CreateConnectConvert.co. We hope you're feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to make your next bold move. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Head over to CreateConnectConvert.co to download our latest resources, sign up for our upcoming events, or hop on the wait list for our exclusive mastermind community. There's a seat at the table waiting just for you. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to click like and subscribe. We'll see you back here next week to dive into another game-changing conversation. And here's a little something to carry you until then. Keep creating, keep connecting, and never stop converting your dreams into reality.